If I were to sum up the combat in KCD, I would say it's difficult to learn but easy to master. Meaning, early on I found the combat a bit confusing and difficult, but after you learn these basics, it becomes much easier and actually pretty fun. During the intro, you'll go to Combat Trainer Van Yek for the basics. This training is mainly just to help with learning the controls. After the intro is where you really learn and improve your combat skills. To learn combat, you'll go to Rattay and speak to Captain Bernard. Bernard is typically at the combat training area in the morning through early afternoon. First, you'll want to decide what weapons you want to focus on leveling. I found short sword with a shield to be great in 1v1 duels as well as fights against multiple enemies. My favorite sword so far is Stinger. You can get Stinger from the Treasure Map 3 DLC, or you can buy it from the Swordsmith. It has really high stab damage, which I use a ton. The Scalloped Shield is really good as well. I got the Scalloped Shield from completing a Woman's Lot DLC. Next, do all the basic training Bernard offers. Defense, combos, swords, everything. And then level up your skills sparring Bernard with wooden weapons. When sparring with Bernard, you'll level up your strength, agility, warfare, and defense. It's also a good way to practice different moves and combinations. When leveling a specific weapon type, you gain skill points you can put into learning different combinations for that weapon. Combinations are tough to pull off, so I try to find one that looks easy and practice just that one until I feel like I have the hang of it. If you're having trouble with combos, don't worry too much. You can win plenty of fights without using combos as long as you have Perfect Block and Master Strike unlocked. Speaking of, the first skill you want to learn is Perfect Block. Perfect Block is a skill on the Combat tab under Defense. Perfect Block allows you to block attacks without costing any stamina. Perfect Block also allows you to quickly counterattack, which is called a riposte. If a green dot appears at the center of your aiming reticle when your opponent attacks, and you immediately hit the block button, a perfect block will occur. When you get the perfect block, quickly hit the attack button, and that will perform a riposte. After I get the perfect block skill, I like to use skill points on anything that improves stamina and blocking. Next, you'll want to learn Master Strike. You learn Master Strike from training with Bernard. Just select the Master Strike option from him in the dialogue menu, and then you'll spar with him. While sparring, keep using Perfect Block and riposte on him until he's had enough. At this point, you'll gain Master Strike. Master Strike is just like riposte, but you need to hit block a hair sooner. If you're fast enough, a perfect block will occur, and then it will automatically perform a riposte. With Master Strikes, you don't have to hit the attack button after your perfect block. This is probably the most powerful combat ability in the game. Once you learn Master Strike, combat becomes much easier. After learning Master Strike, start doing the Bandit camp quests from Bernard. The Bandit and Raider quests help you practice combat versus multiple enemies. You also get very good loot from these quests, which improves your weapons and armor. As an added bonus, you get extra cash when you sell the loot you don't need. After doing the Bandit quests for a couple hours, my gear was hugely improved, and I had more cash than I know what to do with. A couple tips on fighting multiple enemies. Keep all enemies in front of you. Back up, move side to side, use any objects in your area, do whatever you have to not get surrounded. Once you are surrounded, combat becomes much more difficult. If you get an enemy off balance, press the advantage. Use combos or stab repeatedly to get an opponent down as quickly as possible. The fight becomes much easier when there are fewer opponents. Manage your stamina. Once your stamina gets to 0, you can no longer block or attack. Use movement to avoid attacks rather than standing in one place blocking. And last, do the Rattay tournament whenever it's available. Don't worry about losing, It's still a good way to improve your skills, and when you do start winning, you get some pretty good gear as a reward. A few tips on winning the Rattay tournament: be patient. Against the more difficult opponents, if you attack first, a lot of times they'll get the better of you. After you've learned Perfect Block and Master Strike, it's usually the first person who attacks that ends up losing the exchange. It's not a bad idea to throw out a stab here and there, especially if you see an opening. Just be careful not to spam attacks, as that will lower your stamina and open you up to counterattacks. Control the arena. Use movement to keep plenty of space to move back and to the sides. You can also use clinches to control movement. Clinches happen randomly when you or your opponent are close together. One good way to control the arena is if your opponent's back is close to the edge, you can try to get into a clinch, then kick or jab to break the clinch, which knocks them off balance, then immediately attack. You can use this method to push them into a corner, then spam the stab button right at their face, which will take them down really quickly. I've found this can work even against tougher opponents. I know at first the combat can be very frustrating. I rage quit and swore off the game a couple times myself, but once you practice these steps, the combat becomes very easy. And that's pretty much it. I hope this video helped, and if it did, please subscribe, it helps a ton. And if you have any other tips, let me know down in the comments. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.